Hey, it's Dr. Shantae, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Something that I don't think we talk enough about is how we have been socialized and conditioned to value the external validation of others as the gold standard of worthiness. We do this with awards. So if I haven't won certain awards, then I must not be a worthy writer or must not be a worthy artist. We do this with lists. Oh, if I haven't made it on certain list, then I must not be good enough. We do this in romantic relationships. Well, if I'm not coupled or if I'm not married, then I must not be worthy of love. So today we're going to be talking about decentering the external validation and re-emphasizing how we feel about ourselves. Keep watching. So if you're new to this channel, I am a trauma-informed life coach. What does that mean? Basically, it means that I coach my clients through the lens of some deeply rooted trauma. Usually that occurs in childhood and looking at how those issues are showing up as barriers in adulthood. I talk about this on my podcast as well, the Hole in Your Heart podcast, which is available exclusively on YouTube and launching this season. Thank you. But oftentimes, when I've had clients who struggle with issues of worthiness and are looking for external validation, it is usually rooted in some sort of abandonment or neglect, or growing up, you only got praise when you got good grades. And so if you had parents who were emotionally disconnected, if you had parents who only showed up for you if you were doing good on the sports team or you had good grades, that can really disable and disrupt your sense of self and identity. You can come to believe that you are only worthy when you're winning trophies. You are only worthy when you are getting straight A's. You are only worthy when you are performing and pleasing. And if you are not doing those things, then you are not worthy of love. You are not worthy of the external praise or validation. And this is simply not true. So let me normalize this a little bit. To be fair, we are social creatures. Our very identities are formed in part based on our relationship to others. At the same time, our experience in those relationships can make us feel or reinforce the idea that our worth is tied to our output. So what are you doing? Did you do the dishes? Did you clean out the garage? Did you clean your room? Or our achievements? Did you get good grades? Did you win the game? Did you hit the winning home run? Did you sink the winning basket? When we believe that our worth is tied to our output or our worth is tied to our achievements, it will put us in a position of perpetually seeking and searching rather than being at peace as we are. So for many of us, this starts in childhood. Many of us were raised by parents who felt like as long as you had the triangle of survival, food, clothes, shelter. Food, clothes, and shelter. As long as you have food, clothes, and shelter, then you are being properly cared for. And even though food, clothing, and shelter is essential for survival, it does not address the emotional, social, and mental health needs that we all have. And if you were raised by people who were emotionally disconnected from themselves or emotionally unavailable, then you also grew up with things like shut up before I give you something to cry about, or suck it up. And it wasn't a safe environment to just be fully yourself. And then you layer on top of that, if you were raised by people who were not emotionally connected and emotionally attending to your mental health needs, then the emphasis was on what you were doing versus how you were feeling. And so instead of how are you feeling? Why are you sad? Tell me what's on your mind. It was, what are you doing? Did you pick up your sister? Did you defrost that meat? Did you cook that food? Did you clean up your room? Did you clean out the garage? Did you do your homework? It was basically the dynamic was basically, I only get attention from you when I am doing something or not doing something. But we don't have conversations about what I think and what I feel and what I want and what I'm experiencing. And as a result, in adulthood, so we grow up, we become like disconnected from ourselves and we become disconnected from our emotions and our desires, and we replace them with this external seeking desire for other people's praise and validation, and completely disconnected from who we are and what we want. So, how do we fix this? How do we put ourselves and our desires back at the center? Number one, subscribe to the notion that you are a human being and not a human doing, meaning you do not have to be doing something in order to be valued. I repeat, you do not have to be doing something, earning something, producing something, working towards something in order to be valued. You don't need a third degree. Third degree, see what I did there? A fourth certification. You don't need another plaque to put on the wall in order to be valued. You are a human being, and it is okay to just exist, okay? And not just exist, but to exist for the purposes of joy and thriving and peace and abundance, rather than having and acquiring and putting out these status symbols and external markers in order to be valued. The second thing I recommend is to reconnect to your feelings. We have a tendency to intellectualize the things that happen to us. And so like, oh, well, I walked into the job and a box was waiting there. Apparently they were doing layoffs and I had to pack up my stuff, sign some paperwork. And next thing you know, I was out of work. Yeah, that's what happened, but how did you feel about that? Okay, like when your parents decided to go to your brother's baseball game instead of your high school graduation, how did you feel about that? It is okay to reconnect to your feelings, because a lot of us have been stuffing our feelings and sweeping it under the rug and putting it in compartments like, well, that's okay. That's okay. Well, it's in the past now, no big deal, without ever really interrogating how we felt about that. And it is okay to feel your feelings, okay? It is okay to be attuned to things that bother you and to reconnect to yourself in that way. And then the last thing that I would say is focus on being good instead of good enough. Okay. So it's okay to write poetry, and it is okay to create artwork that nobody sees. It's okay. It doesn't need to be posted on social media. It doesn't have to appear in the journal or in this peer reviewed something in order for it to be worth something. Focus on mastery. Focus on art for art's sake. Focus on creativity for creativity's sake. Focus on the things that you enjoy, things that are just good. You know how like there's like this verse in the Bible where it says, and God looked at it and said, it's good. Be like that. Okay, be like that. Look at what you've written, look at what you've created, look at the life that you have and say, it's good. I don't have to be striving for awards and accolades and putting things on the wall. I can just be. And so if you are a book reader, you don't have to compete and say, oh, I read 75 books so I can compete with the booktubers and the book talkers. Read as many books as you want or as few as you want. It's okay. Focus on being good instead of good enough for somebody else's praise, for somebody else's validation, for somebody else's gold star or stamp to say that you are the bomb.com, which you are, no matter who says it. So that, gentle viewer, is all that I have for you today. If you resonated with any part of this video, feel free to hop into those comments, because you know I love to read them. If you like this content, make sure you hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share this content, and I will see you next time.